你好嘛，我们回到来的，我们是中国现在, which is China now, and with your gang of two, Nansu and Michael Olson, and we're so happy to have you along with us as well. Today we're looking across the broad expanse of the Pacific Ocean from our home port here at SantaCruzVoice.com, and by golly, we can look right across the ocean from where we sit. And so we pick up all of this news and information and gossip and everything, and try to figure out what is real and what is fake. And it's really difficult to do that because the news that comes out of China is opaque and hard to see. Nanju, when I was studying Chinese at the University of California, it was at the peak of the Cultural Revolution, but you'd never know it by reading the news in the conventional press because they never carried any stories about what was really going on. And it hasn't changed much when it gets right down to it because the news that we are handed may or may not be news at all. And it's really very difficult to figure out what is real and what is fake. Why is that?
Because a black box there.
A black box,
Yeah, a black box in China.
kind of like uh, a new a box that you can't open and you can't see in, right?
Yeah, you don't know what's inside.
And we probably won't know, but we can guess. And there's a lot of people guessing, and most of what we see is guessing. Um, so that's what we live with. Do you think our Central Intelligence Agency has a better insight than we do?
I think they're in the black box too.
So well, let me ask you this. Do you think Xi Jinping knows what's going on?
Well, I don't know if uh well, it's hard to say.
Do you think anybody in the upper echelon of the Chinese Communist Party who actually knows what's going on would actually tell Xi Jinping, or would they tell him what they
Well,
think he wants to hear?
they tell him for their own advantage.
Okay. So they tell him what they think he wants to hear to make themselves look best.
Yep.
There it is. Well, let me ask you this. What do you think, though, the government officials who came up with the idea to build some sandbars into islands, artificial islands, are telling Xi Jinping about their artificial islands these days, now that they appear to be sinking into the South China Sea?
Well, China have a lot of say tofu. What was that? Tofu drag.
Tofu drag projects. And this is appears to be another one of them. So the idea, ladies and gentlemen, was that the CCP would build up island bases throughout the South China Sea on coral atolls. They would go in and dredge up a bunch of sand and then pour them on top of the coral atolls until they had an island built and they could build a runway or a military base of some kind on it. They have 7 islands throughout the South China Sea, pretty close to the Philippines, Vietnam, um, of course, controlling access to the South China Sea and its exit through the straits of Malacca into the Indian Ocean and to the source of oil, where most of the oil is coming from. So if they can, the idea was to build up these islands. But what appears to be happening is that the islands are dissolving in the ocean and becoming unusable. So there they are. What are you going to do now if that's not going to work? So that's a significant issue facing the good folks at the CCP as we speak. The islands are disappearing. And so moving on, in terms of our relationship with what's going on over there, it appears as though the U.S. forces raided a ship and seized cargo that was going from China to Iran. Nansu?
Yeah, that's in the South China Sea that U.S. naval force actually they stop a Chinese shipping uh, uh, a ship that actually carry a lot of so-called military and civilian dual-use materials from China to Iran.
So are these materials sanctioned? I mean, what gave the United States the right to stop the ship in the first place?
Well, it's just because that uh, the nuclear sanction, right? Remember that?
Right?
So
So Iran is the one that's sanctioned.
that's right.
China is shipping arms and military gear to Iran.
Yep.
And so it's Iran that's sanctioned. Is it a Chinese ship?
Well, it's the Chinese ship that's shipping those materials to Iran, which they're not supposed to. So the U.S. Naval ship basically uh, just board to the ship, and then they destroy all those illegal materials, and they let the vessel go.
So it's not that they seized the ship. They just stopped the ship, seized the illegal military hardware that was being shipped to Iran from China, uh, disarmed it, threw it into the ocean, and then told the ship, "You're free to go now."
Yeah, that's it.
Wow. Was there any response from China?
Not yet so far.
So they didn't say anything.
Not yet.
Hmm. Do you think they will? I would suspect they would hoot and holler a little bit. That's our ship. That's our stuff. Why are you taking it from us?
Well, we don't know if they're going to do anything.
And the reason we don't know is because China's not saying right now. But
Yep.
it would seem
Not.
like it would seem like that would be a direct threat uh, and direct military action. It would seem like if China could say something, they would. So maybe they're in a place where they can't say something.
That's right.
Hmm. And I wonder what that case would be. So, well, there it is. That's a very interesting one to me, uh, because perhaps it's because China does not want the world to know that it's supporting the mullahs in Iran. They,
Yeah.
and this would be obvious proof that they're doing what they said they're not doing, which is fomenting uh, uprisings throughout the Middle East. So interesting. Okay, so moving right along, uh, here we have a situation where 500,000 people have signed a petition against forced organ harvesting. Nancy, what's the difference between forced organ harvesting and voluntarily, or having
Well,
it?
volunteering, it's like you donate your organ, right? You sign
Right.
up, you donate your organ, most likely, you say, if you are in a traffic accident, then you donate, you sign up, say, use my remain organs to save somebody else's life. So that's a voluntary uh, organ donation system. China didn't have that at all. So what they're doing is ever since 2000, they've been taking the organs from prisoners of conscience. They basically kill them and take their organs away.
Well, in some cases, they're not even killing them. They're taking the organs first.
Yeah, they're doing that in the same time. They just they're killing them, and then they put the organ receivers and organ donors in the same room, and then they take the organs, they kill the givers, and then they put it into the put it into the receiver's body right away. That's how the organ transplant is being done in China.
It, I'm trying to think, has there ever been anything like this in the history of human beings?
Well, that's why 2006, when the first investigation report came out, everybody can go to Google, just Google it, the bloody organ harvest. Uh, it's an investigation report done by two leading investigators. One is the Canadian Secretary of State in Asian Pacific region, who was later serving as a parliament member in Canada, Dave Kilgore, who already passed away a few years ago. But this investigation was done back in 2005 and 2006. And another leading investigator of that case was Dave Matters, who was a Canadian international lawyer, international human rights lawyer. So, yeah, just do a Google search. You can find the whole report um, online, free for you to download. It's been there for many years, or like almost 20 years.
20 years.
Yep.
And it's still going on.
Yeah, it's still going on.
So this from Epoch Times. More than 500,000 people around the world have signed a petition calling on the Group of Seven and other countries to take action against the Chinese Communist regime's practice of harvesting organs from prisoners of conscience. So, who are prisoners of conscience, Nansu?
Yeah, it could be anybody.
Could be you
Yeah,
and I if
most
we
of
went over to
the
Hong Kong, I guess.
yeah, the very first group that report this kind of horrifying, bloody practice was the Falun Gong and Buddhist discipline exercise that's been banned by the CCP government ever since July of 1919.
Wow. And ever since 1919, we've been looking at this. And I just, I can't, I'm just totally flabbergasted when I pause to think about the extent to which this is going on and wondering if there's ever been something so sadistic in the history of human. I mean, of all of the recorded history, have we ever done something like this turn an entire group of people with whom we don't agree into body part donors. I mean, we often kill them. That's throughout history. We've often killed them. We often butchered them in very poor circumstances. I mean, you look at Hitler and he gassed people. But to chop them up and sell their body parts as an enterprise, and that's what it is it not? An enterprise of the Chinese Communist Party?
Yeah, that's it. There's, in the first few years, mainly the main market it's overseas. I remember back in 2000, either 2007 or 2008, there is a U.S. congressional leader who initiated a Dear Colleague letter in Congress. It was just right because the Chinese government they openly market this thing in the United States. They put up the advertisement on the newspaper. They promise a date. They promise you a date that you're going to get whatever you need, the liver, heart, or kidney, or pancreas, wherever you, or lung, wherever you
So
need.
it's like a restaurant menu.
Yeah, and then get their listing price. They're openly doing the commercial here on the newspaper in the United States, and there's a U.S. Congress congressional leader who start initiate dear colleague letter, just try to stop this.
Wow. And that's what the Doctors Against Forced Organ Harvesting and the International Coalition to End Transplant Abuse in China is now circulating a petition. They have 505,970 signatures from 34 different countries, and they're going for 1 million by June of 2026. You know what? I'd sign that. I would sign that. And so what good is it going to do if even if they do have 1 million? Will it force people's attention um, to focus on the Chinese Communist Party and what it really is? Is that is
Uh-huh.
that is that really the? I guess if it is the purpose of circulating the petition, and if it does raise awareness of what the Chinese Communist Party is doing, then who in the hell would want to be part of the Chinese Communist Party?
Well, the awareness, it's the key. The awareness is the only thing you can do now. The awareness is the only thing you can, stop this.
And so by circulating this petition in 36 different countries,
Hello?
yes, I'm here. Can you
Can you
hear me?
hear me?
Yes. Gotcha.
I can't hear you.
What happened? I didn't touch
Hello?
anything.
Oh
Hello,
yeah, got
hello.
you, got you,
Okay,
got you.
good. It was an errant thing, a bug that flew by. So, what can be done? All we can do is raise awareness. And by raising awareness, we put the onus on the Chinese Communist Party. This is who you are. This is what you're doing. This is what you're doing to the people of the world. Now, and if you want to be a leader of the world, who would want to follow you if this is what you're doing? And you're taking people who are innocent of anything other than disagreeing with you and chopping them up and selling their body parts. Um, I just said I'm completely flabbergasted. And of course, we actually had um, an involuntary organ transplant donor who joined us on China Now here a year or so ago. And what a story he had to tell. Um, and he woke up in the middle of the operation when they had taken what part of his liver, and somehow he managed to escape and come to the United States and actually tell the story. And what did the CCP do? No, 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 this guy is crazy. He just really didn't go through this, but he had the scars to prove it.
Now they have the medically proved, right? They part of his liver was removed.
Part of his liver was gone. Yes. And so there it is. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, would you sign the petition? And if you did sign the petition, would the CCP get your name and address and want to come talk to you? Maybe send one of their offshore policemen over to arrest you? I don't know. All of those things come into play. But that's the situation there. And we're going to take a quick break. But when we come back, we're going to talk about how Mexico has actually turned against the CCP in favor of the United States, no less.
Hey, Warren, you know it's been a while since I've been up to your showroom and garden center in Scotts Valley. Maybe the folks out there might want to know where you are.
Absolutely. To find Knox Roofing and the Knox Garden Box Company, just head up into beautiful Scotts Valley. We're off of Highway 17 with only 2 X's to choose from. We're at 46 El Pueblo Road, next door to Scarborough Lumber and the beautiful nursery. We have a great showroom displaying all the many choices in roofing, from tile, composition, steel, flat systems in many styles, and now solar. And when it comes to wood items, we have It's All About Wood gift shop. And of course, the Knox Garden Box. What's a Knox box? Lots to look at. And while you're in Scotts Valley, check out the town. There's nice restaurants, breweries, wineries, shopping, hotels, farmers markets, and the entrance to the beautiful redwoods. Okay, folks, as always, we appreciate all of you out there. We'd love to see you at Knox Roofing and the Knox Garden Box store. And we can also come see you as well. Okay, thanks, folks.
Get hooked up with affordable cannabis at your locally owned Hook Outlet, where everybody above the age of 21 can participate in the Hook's loyalty program. Each purchase earns you 2% store credit on your next purchase. Get hooked up with the best cannabis at affordable prices at the Hook Outlet in Capitola and Watsonville, or order online at hookoutlet.com. Get hooked up at the Hook.
Attention investors. This is a simple commercial on the investment value of gold. Gold continues to make new highs. In good markets and in bad markets, you need to have your portfolio balanced with gold. Learn about owning physical gold or getting a gold-backed IRA. Make this simple call right now.
800-414-1657. 800-414-1657. That's 800-414-1657.
Sponsored by Reagan Gold.
Woman 是中国新菜. China Now with your gang of two, Nansu and Michael Olson. And we're cruising through the 2-hour show today. We're picking up lots of stories, trying to get a sense of where we are with China. What do you think, Nansu? China Now, friend or foe? Is it a friend or is it a foe?
Well, China is the biggest enemy of peace and humanity in the entire human history.
And that's the truth, as we see it, I guess. You know, we're looking for indications of friendship. And for 30 years, we thought we saw it. And so we gave it our all to build up China. But what we saw really wasn't there at all. It was not there at all. And yet we poured our hearts and we poured our money into building up China. And once they started feeling the roads, I guess it was really Xi Jinping himself.
No, it's not. It's the whole Chinese Communist Party thing.
All the way from Deng Xiaoping up, right?
They never change.
What was it? Deng Xiaoping was famous for saying, "Hide your strength, bide your time."
See, it's our own ignorance. We fail to see what it means when Deng Xiaoping sent the tanks to Tiananmen Square in 1989. That's the first sign.
Yeah.
The second sign is, we ignore it. We thought we are good. We're going to change China by our money. We're going to bribe the Chinese Communist Party official to change China. Even they killed, thousands of students in Tiananmen Square. That's
Sure.
1989. Now, 1999, when they started persecution of Falun Gong, that's like 100 million people, 100.
What was the similarity? They persecuted, they shot, they murdered the students in Tiananmen Square because the students were demanding freedom.
Yeah.
What is it that frightened them about Falun Gong?
Well, because of Falun Gong, they don't believe what the Communist Party afraid of all faith systems. Because once you have a strong faith, you have your own value system.
So,
What Falun Gong believe is a life after death. See, when you believe life after death, then most likely you believe a higher moral standard than the government, right?
sure, you have to mind your P's and Q's because if you're going to come back into life after death, you're going to have things to pay for. So
Yeah,
you got to behave, right?
yeah.
Uh-huh.
And that's what they don't like.
I guess it's almost fair to say that the Chinese Communist Party is a jealous god.
Yeah, it's true.
You must not have any gods before the Chinese Communist Party, and
That's
that's
right.
it. And so there it is.
Now think about this. In 1999, they started persecution against this group. That's 100 million people.
100
But
million people joined Falun Gong.
yeah, in
And and
China,
and
when they
and
started
what they just to
persecution,
check, what they did was they practiced meditation together.
and they just believe life after death, right?
And that's all you need to know. They believe in God, I guess.
Well, they're not really talking about God. They're just talking about life after death,
Okay.
basically.
Okay.
So because it's like a reincarnation, that kind
Reincarnation.
of.
Okay.
Right. So now we gave China, that's just a few months later, about 6 months later, or in 2000, we gave China PNTO.
Most
And
favored
then because
nation.
we are hoping gave China PNTO will help China to become democratic nation. Now think about it. The most fundamental principle of democracy, it's religious freedom. Now they are persecuting 100 million people because of what they believe and the what what can even convince us that making them rich are going to make them become a democracy. It doesn't make sense.
It only makes sense, Nansu, if we were making money by making them rich. By giving them our money, we would somehow make more money.
So
That makes sense. But
it
th
all doesn't make sense to me. So that's the second time. That's the second time we close our eyes,
Tiananmen
right?
Square, and then the persecution of the Falun Gong, and then the
And
closing of
and
Hong
after
Kong.
that, in 2001, we allow them to join WTO. And After that, things just get out of hand. From 2001 to 2011, first 10 years, China joined WTO. China's economy grew 5 times, and then from 2011 to 2021, doubled. So from the first 20 years after they joined WTO, their economy grew tenfold. That's what happened. You know,
Hmm.
we blink our eyes twice. First time, 89, when Deng Xiaoping sent tanks to kill thousands of pro-democracy students in Tiananmen Square. The second time, 1999, when they started persecuting the 100 million Falun Gong practitioners. We blink our eyes twice. That's what happened.
And today we report um, an advocate for Hong Kong freedom is thrown in jail. Jimmy
Yep.
Lai might spend the rest of his life in jail for advocating for freedom. So when we look close, the only thing we see is the need of the CCP for control. And that's the only thing they're really interested in. And you can see that in Xi Jinping because he will turn away from economic policies that would make it possible for the Chinese people uh, to develop an income, to have a life. And he turns away from that and clamps down on the private economy because if he gives citizens of China, or inmates as I call them, of China, the right to develop an economy, they will see freedom. And that's the one thing he can't tolerate.
Well, that's why the 2025 just newly released the Trump version of national security strategy. It says all four former U.S. administration fail the China's policy. That's, George W. Bush, George H.W. Bush, Clinton, and Obama.
And Biden.
Well, Biden actually continued um, Trump's first term China policy. Uh, he's a little softer, but he still continued the China policy in the same direction. I think the Trump uh, National Security Strategy 2025 specifically say four former U.S.
Presidents.
President. So I think that's from H.W. Bush, because it was under his leadership, China had a Tiananmen Square massacre.
And there we are. I think it'll go down in history as the panda love era. And to really understand it, you almost have to see it as the panda love era. Is that we were so smitten with the images of pandas that we could not see the CCP. And we were so smitten with the hope of being able to live in a peaceful world with this magnificent culture that is no longer there. And so it was the era of panda love.
Yeah, that's like I don't know, almost half a century though. Ever since the Henry Kissinger visited Beijing, so Zhou Enlai sending pandas to the United States. What was that? 1973?
Yep.
Yeah.
Zhou
So that's
Enlai.
yeah.
Zhou Enlai was always the smart one. He was, to me, at any rate, when I was studying Chinese and trying to get a glimpse of what was going on in there. there was always Chairman Mao and his sidekick, Zhou Enlai. And it always seems to me like Zhou Enlai was the smart one, and Mao Zedong was the firebrand, always getting into trouble doing this and that. And Zhou Enlai was the smart one that he would actually listen to occasionally. But at any rate, I think the Panda Bears was one of the great strategic political coups in the history of human race because he snookered us. He just snookered us with that one. So, at any rate, yes, we've been ignoring the CCP. We've been letting them get away with it forever. But then times are changing, Nansu, I think. And I think it's not just here in the United States, but I think China's aggressive behavior around the world, with its military, with its Belt and Road, and with its involuntary organ donations and all of those things, I think people are waking up to the fact. And one of the stories that we had on the docket was the story about how Mexico actually is turning out to, so in just this coming year, as a matter of fact, we have the USMCA agreement up for renegotiation, 2026, which is a couple weeks away. In 2026, the USMCA, US Mexico Canada agreement is up for renegotiation. And in that, when Trump pointed out the fact that, hey, we're up for negotiation, what Mexico did was that it's instituted tariffs on all of China, on many of Chinese exports to Mexico, and of up to 50%. So that's a pretty huge hit. And China, of course, is saying, well, wait a minute here. China has called on Mexico to abandon its plan to impose new and higher tariffs on a wide range of Chinese products. I think Mexico was China's fourth largest trading partner.
Yep, big
So
one.
it was a huge one. And all of a sudden, the president of Mexico and the Congress, President Claudius Sheinbaum, and the Commerce Ministry, everybody made an about face forward march and put all of these tariffs on China, thus siding with the United States against China. And I guess if there's anything we can say, that the U.S. is leading a worldwide effort to shut down China's commerce.
Yeah, that's also part of Trump National Security Strategy 2025. That's how he was going to focus on the Western sphere. How do you call that?
The Western civilization, I guess. Yeah, the West.
Yeah, not the West, but the American continent, right?
Oh, okay. Western Hemisphere.
Yeah, Western Hemisphere.
Got
Yeah,
it.
that's the Western Hemisphere strategy. That it's to shake up the whole American continent. This is Americans' backyard. So now we are even lose control in the backyard.
So, and you can see, where do you see that most prominently displayed, of course, is in Venezuela.
Yep, that's what's going on right now.
And that's what Trump is fighting. So maybe bombing those drug boats had an impact on President Claudia Sheinbaum. Said, this Trump's crazy. He's
Yeah,
bombing drug boats.
and
Maybe
also he sees the oil tank, right?
yes. Now, that was different than dropping in on the Chinese cargo ship in the South China Sea and confiscating the military hardware headed for Iran. Because when he boarded the tanker that was carrying Chinese crude to Cuba, he was taking that was a big steal. We're taking this because we're not going to allow Venezuela to sell its crude oil. We have sanctioned you, and to protect ourselves, we are going to shut you down, essentially.
Yep.
So, is it war?
Well, I think it's a drug war. I mean, it's an anti-terrorist war because all this drug cartel, they are the terrorist groups now.
Why did it take the United States so long to recognize the fact that killing tens of thousands of young Americans or middle-aged Americans or Americans was a terrorist act? We just sucked it up and took it.
Yep, yep. 2023, we have like more than 76,000 people die because of fentanyl. Even 2024, we have like 48,000, something like that. So total 2 years, it's like 100, more than 120,000 people die because of fentanyl
And where does the fentanyl come from ultimately? The precursor elements all
from
come from
China.
China.
Yep.
And how many minutes would it take for China to shut down
All
those?
it takes is Xi Jinping to make a phone call. Actually, that's what Xi Jinping promised Trump in the first Trump term, that he told Trump that whoever sending these materials to American continent, and he was going to execute those guys. Yeah, but he never did.
They never did. Another one of the long chain of broken promises. So instead, what they do is well, they did send it to Mexico, but it seems like they rerouted it into Venezuela. Perhaps because Venezuela's government was much more friendly to the processing of these chemicals and sending it north then. So it's almost like it is war.
Well,
What else
you
can you
know,
call this?
you got like 76,000 people die 2023. That's a lot of people. I think that
I
those,
think that's more than Vietnam.
yeah, and that's more than the Gettysburg battlefield.
Yes. And nobody did anything. I mean, people said they did things, but nobody really stopped it.
Yeah,
I
nobody
don't know
really
if you can
stopped them.
stop. I don't know if you can stop it.
Well, I think now it's good, if they try to ship those materials to Venezuela, then we have a U.S. Air Force and Naval Force there to just bomb those ships, right? And then if they want to ship the oil to Russia, we will seize those tankers. We'll seize those tankers, and I think that's good.
So we are at war with
See, if
Venezuela.
we don't stop them, we continuously
Yeah.
letting them doing that, there will be no America tomorrow.
And China is on their side. So essentially, we're fighting China by fighting Venezuela.
Yeah, Venezuela has a long-term alliance with Russia and Cuba, and
Yep.
also they have deeply involved in their Belt and Road Initiative with China.
And with respect to Cuba, I've understood that Cuba is actually the police force of Venezuela. Cuba is the one who's running Venezuela's security functions. At least that's what I've heard. Don't know if
Yeah,
it's true.
well, so that's what Venezuela relies on are all our enemies. So
So,
I just wonder why, we allow these things going on for so long and allowing them sending all their criminals to the United States.
yes, there's no reason. There is no reason. There is no reason that those prisoners were allowed to come here. Like, there is no reason other than to terrorize us, right?
Yep.
And that was our own government that did that. All throughout the world now, we have a situation in which China's mercantilism is destroying economies, not as it destroyed our economy
Oh,
by
they are destroying a lot of European countries' economy right now. Oh, well, good luck to those, European nations who are still wishful thinking about the future of China. Like Starmer in UK, he's not doing anything. He's not doing anything so far to stop the electrical cars pouring to UK from China. So now in this year, the China's electrical car in UK, I think they increased like close to 10% of the market share. They quickly, they're quickly taking over UK. I don't know what he's doing, I
well, and
hope
the
it,
same is true of Germany too.
yeah.
The interesting thing about Germany is it had this wonderful relationship with China during the Panda Love era because Germany made the equipment that enabled China to make stuff. So all this industrial equipment they were buying from Germany, and Germany was making a ton of money selling all of this industrial equipment. And now China's making all the stuff that it's sending to Germany, and just in the process of doing that, destroying Germany's industry.
And now China, and also as mentioned by Trump, 2025 national security strategy. It, that whole strategy didn't mention any other European country's name, but Germany and Ukraine. It mentioned Ukraine twice, and it mentioned Germany's name twice. You know how, in what circumstance it mentioned Germany's name twice?
What was that?
He says Germany right now it's building the world's largest chemical manufacture plants in
In
China
China,
using oils importing from Russia.
Russia. Pointing to the fact that panda love exists still
Yeah,
to
it's
this
still
day.
there. They're still making the same mistake.
And so Mexico, I think, by virtue of Trump pointing to the fact that our agreement, our U.S. Mexico Canada agreement, is up for renewal in 2026. I think by pointing that fact out, President Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico woke up to the fact that that Mexico had to make a choice between which direction to take. And so Mexico is going with the United States. Germany, England, Europe, not so much.
Yeah, they are still like a flip-flop.
And so what is the hope for Europe? it seems like maybe Russia knew what it was doing when it invaded Ukraine. Maybe they saw a real soft Europe that was unable to fight and that would not fight. And maybe they thought it was the perfect opportunity to roll right into the Ukraine, take it over. And once you take over the Ukraine, what's to stop you from taking over the rest of Europe?
Nobody.
Nobody. Nothing there. So we face a very tough world, ladies and gentlemen. China now, friend or foe. When you look at what's going on in the world with a fight, and it is a fight, it is a war. We are at war with China. We always have been. We just didn't know it. They knew it. China knew it. China knew exactly what it was doing as it took our money and built a brand new country with it, and then used even more of our money to loan it out to developing nations around the world and enslave them with debt traps that they would never be able to pay off. And so they would always be indebted to China because China lent them our money. Panda love went on and on and on. You know, Nansu, I think hopefully maybe next week you and I can pick up a subject that I would really like to deal with. And we've always talked about how when a dictator gets put up against the wall and senses the long knives coming for him from within his own cabinet, the dictator would have to do something. And we always speculated Xi Jinping's something would be that he would invade Taiwan. But I've been thinking maybe there's something else he would do. Maybe he would follow Chairman Mao. And what did Chairman Mao do when the long knives came for him back in 1965-66? What did he do? He staged a cultural revolution.
Well, Xi Jinping has been leading a cultural revolution ever since he he became the top.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to pick that up maybe next week. You and I can put that on the table, talk about Mao's great cultural revolution, and consider whether Xi Jinping could rally his citizenry to overthrow the capitalist roaders who are trying to take Xi Jinping down. Is that a
Well,
possibility?
well, Xi Jinping facing a lot of challengers
Okay.
inside the CCP right
All right,
now.
we're going to see if that's a possibility next week on China Now. So don't miss out. It's going to be very interesting. Thank you all for tuning in.